Hey guys, how's it going? Well, the other day you saw that I had this Plymouth 383 brought back to life, and that was a good day. I was really happy about that. Man, this thing runs good, and transmission seems to work. At least it goes in gear, and so a lot of good things in that video. And I want to apologize for it being crunched down so it looked like a cell phone video. That was not taken on a cell phone. That was on the actual regular camera here. But I've been experimenting with some video rendering as far as like when I edit videos, trying to get them to upload to YouTube and be viewable in HD. And so I use that cheapo free Windows Movie Maker because I'm too cheap to buy a good editing program. So that's what I've been using. And so I noticed, first thing I noticed, they were not in HD, so I've been trying to experiment, and I had some choices on that to let me render them in 1080p is what it said. And when I did that, you saw what the results were. It was crunched down into like a little thing there. So I got some more work to do as far as figuring out how to get that to play nice. But anyway, back to this. You noticed that when I was running this car, I was having problems getting the idle to come down, and it died a couple times, and that was just because it was cold. So obviously I've got something binding up in here that's binding the throttle and the choke and all that, so that's not all working very well right now. But I want to get out here to this evening while I still got some light and look into this. So I'm going to do that, and let me get that air cleaner off and we'll see what's what. Okay then, got that air cleaner off, and this is the 383. This is a big block. This is a B engine. You have a B engine and you have an RB, which the B is just a standard big block Mopar engine. The RB means raised block, which that's like a 413 and a 420. Let's see, I think that's a 413, maybe a 426, and that may not even be correct. It may just be a 413 and a 440. I thought the 426 was the largest regular block, non-raised block there was, but the non-raised block like this one, just a regular B engine, that was a 350, a 361, a 383, and a 400. So those went from earliest to latest. Anyway, this indeed is a 383. These cars have these engines rather have a pad which is pretty hidden down behind the distributor, but it's got the displacement stamped in it. And this one is not, I don't think this is the original engine in this car. This is the code on the distributor pads is C code, and I think it's supposed to be a D. I think C is for 1967, and this is a 1968 car, but it does say 383 on it. So you may remember, if you watched back through a couple of the original videos I did on this car, this had a thermoquad carburetor, which is a lot later model than what this is, and the matching intake. Thermoquad is a spread bore, and this car is supposed to have what you see here, which is this is a Carter AVS carburetor. It's a 4-barrel square bore carburetor. It's not a spread bore, and this is the exact carburetor that goes on this car. It's gotta get my light here, I'll show you. This light will work good enough. If you look down there stamp, it's just like an Edelbrock carburetor. Those of you who are familiar with an Edelbrock, let's see if it'll focus for me. There we go. It's got a far left's got a B8, which means that's February of '68, and then that's the model number 4401S. So that decodes to a 4-barrel 1968 4-barrel 383 engine. Should be with automatic transmission, which of course this is. So I found this on eBay, and I overhauled this carburetor, and When I did, I had it off the engine. I didn't note anything that would be causing it to bind up. The only thing that I noticed was wrong with it was that over here on the passenger side of it, you've got a little bit of a arrangement here to open up the secondaries. You've got this is your primary throttle blade and shaft, and then it's got this deal over here that when you kick open the primaries far enough, it kicks the secondaries open too. So this is just a basic carburetor. You know, it's got, I guess you could, if you want to be technical about it, you could call it mechanical secondaries, but they aren't vacuum secondaries, so I guess mechanical would be correct, wouldn't it? So anyway, that was the only thing. That thing was all kind of bent. It looked like this carburetor had been dropped and it had landed on that and kind of warped it around and stuff, and that wasn't working right. So I straightened all that out and it was working good. So what we need to address over here is that's interesting. Huh. A little bit of I was just looking here at this where this, that's the accelerator pump, the top of it right there. You can't see shit, can you? That's the top of the accelerator pump right there, and this has got kind of a residue on it there. I guess, I don't know if I didn't clean that or that's just a little bit of fuel residue. But anyway, what we need to address without getting ourselves distracted is this, probably over here something is probably hanging this up. And this is, if you look in here, this is the base idle screw, and then it's got a, where my thumb is pointing, it's got a little piece that goes against that, and that's what sets your base idle. And actually, without getting into too much of this, it's also got steps on that control the choke, fast idle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this piece of linkage right here, because I want to be able to work this. I want to be able to work this arrangement without, this would pump gas into the carburetor, into the engine. So I'm going to take that loose, and that way I can manipulate all this and see where our sticking point is. Now, there's a lot going on right here. If you look at this, you've got this guy right here. This is your throttle rod for the everybody calls it the kick down, but it's not the kick down. It does that, but this is for the transmission. This is the part that I lecture you guys about. If you ever have one of these Mopars, this thing has to be adjusted the right way. So that's an integral part of this. And the thing about this is not the right one for this engine, as I found out. The one that's supposed to be on here, I think, is supposed to have a bend going the other way at the end, but I'm not certain about that. But anyway, something is overcoming this somewhere. So I'm going to take that piece of linkage off, and I'm going to work on this a little bit and see if I find a smoking gun, and I'll report back when I do. Oh, by the way, sorry, sometimes when I make videos and I'm kind of excited about stuff, I kind of jump around pretty fast, and I don't really spend much time on something I should have explained a little bit more about. I zoomed by here the other day and I said Lyle's been driving his truck, and that's it. He indeed has been driving that Toyota. I guess he's got his paperwork trail straightened out with it, and he's been driving it to work, and I think it's been doing pretty well. We put, like I said, we put a idler arm on it and a pitman arm, and we tuned it up, did plugs and wires and cap and all that. So what his problem was with that revving up shit that he kept doing on and on and on was the cold start switch on those. Those of you who have a 22RE and all that, you know, it's got a cold start injector in it. And without trying to get too far off on another tangent in this video, anyway, that thing it's like a fifth injector, so when it's cold out, it's supposed to inject additional fuel so it'll start easily. And on his, that solenoid, that switch is bad, so whenever it's plugged in, that cold start injector was running, so that's why I was doing all that blah blah blah. So what I told him to do, and what he's been doing, is disconnect it until he needs it. So I think in the mornings he has to get out here and plug it in temporarily, and it'll start easily, and then he comes back out, right back out, and unplugs it, and then drives off. But it's a pretty decent truck. The only thing that I saw about it that I didn't like was that there he comes now. I'll be right back. Well, I was going to ask him how it was running, but he's hot-footed towards the house, so I guess the answer is okay. The only thing that I noticed about it when we drove it was that we couldn't adjust the transmission shift points, and it's got one of those cables like a GM transmission, and it's supposed to like a Volvo, etc., etc. It's supposed to set the shift points, and no matter what we did, it just kind of plotted its way up the gears and back down, kind of just wherever it wanted to. Okay, guys, let me quit yakking, but I want to kind of bring you more up to speed on that, about that, because I had touched on that and didn't explain much about it. Okay, see you in a minute. Ooh, well, that's bad. Did you hear that? That was his son just came in the driveway over there with that Acura, and he just bottomed the crap out of that thing on the driveway. I'm going to tell you guys something. This is just how it is. There are people who do not deserve to drive a car. I'm serious. There are folks that just... The whole concept of bumps and potholes and things in the road and speed and the whole relationship, the understanding of that whole relationship is just not there. It's not there in their brains. It's gone. It never was there. It's like, well, when I drive 20 miles an hour into a big dip into a driveway, something's going to hit the ground. Okay, enough of that. I think he's kind of a... Well, I don't know. Anyway, let's get on with this. You're not turning off, are you? Look. That car where it came in, it blew the tire out. He hit it so hard it's on a flat tire now, and it ain't even been there 15 minutes. Alright guys, I'm sorry I'm losing my light here, but I'll try to lead you through this pretty quickly. Anyway, I didn't really find a smoking gun on this carburetor as far as something that was hanging it up. That throttle rod is the improper rod because it was hanging up on the throttle cable back there at the end of it. So I just went through and oiled with good old 30 weight. I oiled all the pivot points on this linkage, so it seems to be working smoothly. See if I can pull this one off here. Yeah, maybe. Line my thing up there. So it seems to be working fairly smoothly now. This accelerator cable is questionable because it's old, and that's not necessarily a disqualifier, but usually when they're old they're also worn and dried out. It's kind of bent right there, you can see. So so probably it's a good chance that I'm going to go ahead and replace that. Now well, maybe it's not on a flat tire. They're leaving in that car. But let's see what happens. I don't know. Anyway, there's so much strange crap going on around here. I can't even make a video. It's chaos, man. All right, back where I was at. We were talking about this, and you gotta live here. You gotta live here. You really should. It's a circus around here. What I did find out was that when I was messing with this thing, I was telling you earlier in the first part of the video over here, I'm going to give you a demonstration of how this secondary thing works over here. This is the primary part of it, and this is the secondary, and it's got a little piece of linkage here that connects the two of them, and then it's got a little arrangement so that when this primary rotates far enough, it catches this where my fingernail is right there and pushes it back. So watch and see what happens here, and you'll get an idea of how that works. Now the problem with that is that it's impossible for me to show you this, but those secondaries are only opening about 2/3 of the way. That ain't gonna happen, so I gotta do some asking around and consult the elders here, the Mopar elders, to I hear air. Consult the Mopar elders to get advice on how to adjust that so that opens up all the way. And this is another one of these kind of vague situations, and what I call a vague situation is when you have something that should be cut and dried. There should just be a single easy explanation for something, but it turns out there's not. When I got a base plate gasket for this, I couldn't get one, or at least I was told that there was not one for this specific carburetor anymore. So I got one for a lot later model ABS carburetor, like a 72, and it was just a, as you see, a gasket, kind of a fairly thick gasket, and it had these little brass grommets on each corner of it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just the idea of those things, you're supposed to cinch those bolts down far enough and it lets the grommets compress and the whole thing's flat. Well, that's not what happened here. This one didn't work, so I took those grommets I took those grommets out and used it without them. And the thing about that is yeah, buddy, without trying to confuse you guys too much, it's thrown off the relationship of this choke rod, which goes between the intake manifold. That's where that thing down there is mounted. There, see this bolt to it? It threw off the relationship to this thing, to the choke up here. So now it doesn't, that's as far closed as the choke goes when it's cold. In fact, I don't think it even goes that, well, that's about it. So that's not so much a problem, except it doesn't work very well. I mean, it is a problem. And the thing about it is that that does not engage the fast idle properly. So there's a couple things I got to address about this carburetor. So I have a seal for it. It's stuck to the air cleaner, I guess. But anyway, it did work good. I have confidence that it'll be fine. I can tell you right now, this is going to be a messy carburetor because it's already putting out some stains here, and it's putting out some stains around the gasket. This thing, after 5,000 miles, is probably going to look like hell. And that's what I want to do this weekend. Besides deal with the carburetor, is just tie up a lot of loose ends. I want to get this thing 100%. Because I noticed over here, I saw some leaks in the driveway from something, and I suspect this power steering sector is probably behind some of that. Because you look at this, it's got to have a hose bit on it. Look at that hose right there. That's not even the bad end. The bad end's up here. If you can see that, it is cut into that. Look how bad it's cut into that right there. You see that clamps. So anyway, yeah, I see something I see some evidence here. I see some evidence that this power steering pump too has been leaking up here. But we'll look at all this closer in the daylight. It's nothing we can't handle. So, anyway, alright guys, it's getting dark and can't see hardly anything. So, we will come back to this. So, on the weekend, I think we will make some more headway. And one last little thing while we're just BSing about this stuff is if you look on here, you'll notice something interesting. This carburetor has a single idle mixture screw. That down there, that thing and that thing, that's where the idle screws normally go on one of these. But not anymore. They have a single one. Ain't that interesting? Okay guys, well, we'll cut her off. I'll tell you what, boy, that's listen to this. Now that's that truck on a good day. When that thing floods real bad, it's does he fix it? No. Nope. Too hard to fix it. It's too hard. Uh-oh, I heard a wrench over there. Maybe they're changing a tire. That's wacky stuff, isn't it? Now he's out there with him, sounds like. You know, guys, I hate to be critical. Nobody's perfect, but there's just a whole group of people that drive cars that are those types of people that they don't hear brakes that are rubbed down the metal. They're making noise. They don't understand an engine that's misfiring. They don't notice smoke. They don't notice temperature gauges that are all the way over to H. They don't notice the fuel gauges all the way down to E. You know, they don't see puddles of stuff under the car. They don't see or notice any of this stuff. All they do is they put a key in the door. They sit down. They put the key in the ignition. They turn the ignition. If it runs, they drive away. And they just do that until it quits running, or something falls off, or they wreck. You know, it's just, I don't understand people like that. I'll never understand people like that. You know, I wonder to myself, I was like, what do you think about when you're not thinking about stuff that's happening to your car? Well, I think I'll go see my girlfriend. I guess I better go to the loan company and pay a payment. Wonder if I can rent some furniture. I want a new phone. I want a new car. I wonder if Joe Bob's home. Maybe I'll drive to Joe Bob's and see if he's home. Well, Joe Bob's not home, so I guess I'll come back home to my house for 10 minutes, and then I'll go somewhere else. I don't understand that. I really don't, because, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys like me, and women too, that if I put the brakes on this truck, and I heard something go shriek, you know, I'd think to myself, well, that sounds like it needs brake pads. I think it needs brake pads, so you know what I'll do? I'll go home and I'll check them, and I'll replace them if necessary, or if I don't work on cars, I'll take it in someplace and have it checked. You know, because here's the, oh boy, Toyota time. Here's the deal. You know what that sound is, for instance, when you hear brakes that are going, you know what that sound is? Yeah, I was on the move. I was driving the hell out of that truck. That sound is not necessarily just the sound of brakes drawn down to nothing. That's the sound of money draining out of your pockets, and your checking account, and your credit card account, and every account you have. So here's some advice. If you drive a car, don't be proud of the fact that you don't know shit about cars, because it just costs you money, and just costs you, you see your vehicle and you look like an idiot, okay? There's nothing good about it. So don't be one of these dinguses that just sits there and looks at a cell phone and they know nothing about cars and they say, I just don't know how to work on a car. It ain't hard. It ain't hard. Trust me, if I can do it, anybody else can do it. Alright guys, well, I guess I was in the mood to talk today, so I talk, now you gotta listen. I hope you guys enjoy it. So, and you know, for you guys who've not been on my channel much, you know, I know it kind of, what the hell? Camera's having a fit, ain't it? There it goes. I know it kind of traumatizes you when I start in on a video and then I get off on these kind of tangents, but that's just the way it is. I mean, it's like this. You're either going to watch my videos that are pretty long and there's some interesting stuff scattered throughout it, mixed with talking and observations and things like that, or you're going to watch like our Peaks videos, which are great videos, but they're not any of them longer than about 3 or 4 minutes. Or you're going to watch Musty One's videos, who does great videos, and his whole video from start to finish is one big interesting thing. I wish I was that good, but I'm not. So we can just try to be, huh? See you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.